Alright, we're back with round 2 of our league, looking to build off of the win against Yawgmoth in round 1. And we open up a pretty good hand here. We have the full lock, disruption, and tutor, so easy keep. And here I elect to lead on on Codex Shredder instead of duress. The reason for that being that I like to hold duress for a bit later in the game. If it was Thoughtseize, I'd be much more inclined to play it on turn 1, but because most of the stuff that duress hits won't be relevant until later in the game anyway, I do think it's beneficial to hold it until a bit later. Now, the reason I run out Shredder and not Lantern is because without Shredder, Lantern doesn't provide us any value, and it can provide our opponents a lot of benefit with their sequencing of fetch lands and that sort of thing. So we don't want to allow that benefit, and duress, things like Blood Moon, Leyline Binding, the One Ring, we can all cast duress on turn 3 and still get them. And if they're a counterspell deck, duress on the turn before Profane Tutor comes down is going to allow us to take a counterspell to then protect that tutor and likely bridge. And so it turns out they're on burn here and just play a Goblin Guide. Now we see a Profane Tutor on top, which I do elect to draw. I could have milled it, but I think I need to find bridge and cookbook here in order to win this game, so I think Profane Tutor is fine to leave on top. So we go ahead and suspend the first one. Kind of slow against burn, but not the worst thing in the world. And their guide draws us into an Urza Saga, which will be able to find a cookbook, but it's likely going to be too slow. Tutor ticks down here, and so we're going to duress first. And they're going to play a Boros Charm, which I think it was pretty telegraphed that they had here. You know, a lot of time you can recognize what your opponent has just by playing the matchups a lot. It's either Boros Charm or Lightning Helix, but Charm's more realistic. And when we look at their hand, we see Searing Blaze, so we're not going to make constructs with Urza Saga. We're just going to let it be a dead card in the matchup. Skewer and Skullcrack, and we'll take the Skullcrack as it prevents us from gaining life. If it was something like a Lightning Helix, we would take the Skewer because the Helix costs more mana, but the Skullcrack, the life, shutting down the life gain is the real reason we take it. Just pop those out. And then we play Saga and suspend a second tutor. One thing I have found with the tutor is that if you have 2 of them on suspend, if you suspend them on back-to-back turns, it feels very hard to lose when they come off. Like it's just a very strong interaction there where you're drawing a card for turn and then tutoring your deck kind of 2 turns in a row, and with that play pattern it just totally sets up the lock. And so they hit us down to 4 here, which means that off this Profane Tutor I elect to get a Underworld Cookbook instead of bridge. We can get bridge next turn, but this turn we need the cookbook to stay alive. So if they draw any sort of bolt, which I think is pretty likely given what their deck is, we die, and we also wouldn't have had enough cards to empty our hand for bridge to prevent the Goblin Guide from attacking anyway. And that's another benefit of cookbook in this matchup, is that even if we draw a lot of cards of extra lands from Goblin Guide, we can just discard them to cookbook, which we do. So we're just going to go up to 7 here, and we know what their 2 cards in hand are. Searing Blaze is dead, and them drawing another Goblin Guide here will not kill us. Importantly, so they run out Goblin Guide, and because they have a fetch land, and they can't, and it's Skullcrack on top, they can't use the Canyon and cast Skullcrack. If this was Bolt or something, they could crack and kill us here, but they are not going to be able to. They do put us down to 3 though, but 3 is not dead. And we are going to untap, cast the Profane Tutor for bridge, and we're fortunate enough to hit that untapped land. Was important, as we need to be able to use it to gain the life off this food right away. And then with 2 Mill Rocks plus Cookbook here, we're basically going to just discard anything that we are able to draw. We do mill attempt to mill the what's the card that was on top? The Skullcrack on top. And so they draw 1 bolt, but at this point it looks like they kind of realize that we're not going to be making creatures and can just gain 3 life. So we're up 1-0 against Burn. Let's see how the next game goes. Sideboarding for Burn is not too hard. We're going to just bring in Ley Lines and then Welding Jar, as their most removal is either Wear Tear or Smash to Smithereens, so it's good there. We're going to take out 2 Needles. We leave in 1. There are kind of a few cases where it can come up or hit something. Surgical, just that life loss isn't kind of something we want in this matchup. And Grafdigger's Cage, as they don't have much graveyard things that we care about. One card that comes up a lot in sideboarding is Thoughtseize, and I think it's actually incorrect to take it out against Burn. A lot of people take it out because they think, oh, I don't want to deal 2 damage to myself. You know, it's not doing their game plan for them. I think that's the wrong kind of mindset to look at it, where you want to Thoughtseize. When you're playing against Burn, you're basically stalling the game to a point where you can get Underworld Cookbook down, because that card just beats them. So it's Underworld Cookbook plus Bridge just wins against Burn. So even if you're taking, like, you Thoughtseize, at minimum you're taking a Lightning Bolt, so you're saving 1 damage, which is good, as they're going to have time to cast all their cards. It's just about prolonging it so that Cookbook can do enough. And a lot of the time, you can take something like Wear Tear, Smash to Smithereens, Roiling Vortex, Eidolon, if they're playing that. There's a lot of stuff you can take that will do more than 3 damage. So at minimum, it's saving you a damage that they're going to have access to anyway. And that's why I think it's incorrect to take it out. Just my thoughts on it. Let me know. If you disagree with that, I'd love to hear why, but I think it's just incorrect to take out Thoughtseize in this matchup. Anyway, let's get into game 2. With that sideboarding in mind, we open a pretty solid hand here. I think the only thing that would make this much better is a Leyline in hand. We have the full lock. Duress can take most of what we care about, and Bridge should shut down the creatures. It could be a touch slow on the draw, but I don't think we can mulligan this hand comfortably, especially with only 3 Ley Lines. And so we elect to keep, and they just lead on the guide here. And Bridge in hand, guide can actually get to a point where it's drawing too many lands for us. And we just play Bauble Shredder, either to bauble ourselves or keep the constructs bigger with the bauble. You can Duress, but I'm not really too concerned. If they have Smash to Smithereens here, like, alright, that's kind of like they take a Shredder, but it's not something that I'm too worried about. They do play a Swift Spear and get in, and we see the Cookbook on top, and this actually isn't great because we would usually rather play it, like, get the Cookbook off Saga than have to play it from hand. But we Duress here, and we do take Smash, and we see they have Lava Spike and Skullcrack left, meaning that it is going to be tough for us to get the lock established. We do mill Boros Charm just because it does 4 damage over 1, but here so they draw the what was it on top? Another burn spell, Lightning Helix was on top, but here we're just dead. Like, they hit us for 5, and we elect to concede here. If we play Bridge, we still have 2 cards in hand between Shredder and Cookbook. If we play Cookbook, discard Shredder, gain 3, that puts us at 7. They then hit us for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus Prowess on Swift Spear, that gets there. Skullcrack, even if we like somehow killed both their creatures, like if we had enough cards in hand, Lava Spike plus Skullcrack kills us, and so Burn is just fast enough. Pretty short game 2, but hopefully we can be on the play, and Urza Saga on the play is very strong against Burn, so we'll see if we can get that. So game 3, we start off, I think this hand is kind of right on the edge. because we're on the play, I think it's actually a bit worse. We're kind of turn 1, we do nothing. Turn 2, we suspend tutor. Turn 3, we're then making a construct or so. I think burn just kills us too quickly through this hand. If we were on the draw, I could see it being a bit better, where we go turn 1, remove a creature, turn 2, tutor, and then do stuff. But I think on the play, kind of both of the pendings kind of not really doing much for us. I think this is a mulligan. And then our second hand only has Saga as a land. I think on the play, we don't have Bauble plus Mill Rock or anything like that to filter. Yes, we have Cookbook, but again, I think this is just a Mull to 5 here. Unfortunate that they kept 7, but we'll see how we do. Again, this hand here, I think is like really close on 5, but I think you just have to go to 4. Your only land is Spire, which means you're going to be taking a ton of damage in a matchup where you don't really want to. If you keep, you're probably putting Thoughtseize and a Ghoulcaller's Bell to the bottom here, something like that. But even still, you're very reliant on drawing a second land. If you don't, you're just totally dead. Even if you do, you still have to find a lot of pieces to get there against burn. So I elect to Mull to 4. And this 4 is keepable. Obviously, it's not great because it's 4, but we're going to keep it. And we keep Leyline, Prismatic Ending, Plains, and Ruins. The reason I didn't keep Bridge is that most of what they have that gets around Leyline, like all of their creatures, we can then answer with Prismatic Ending. Just how I elected to keep here. If this was a black land, would have kept the Profane Tutor probably over pending, but this is definitely going to be an uphill battle here with just a Leyline. And so they go land and pass, meaning they kept a hand without any creatures, which should be good into Leyline as it can shut down a lot of their direct damage. And we do draw a bridge, which is good here. When they draw creatures, they'll be able to do it. And they have the Wear Tear for Leyline of Sanctity. Obviously, this puts a lot more pressure on us to kind of find answers quickly. And so they're just going to play Lightning Helix and start burning us out. We're going to play Bauble, see a Goblin Guide on top, which we are kind of looking for lands, so Goblin Guide isn't the worst here. We will still answer it just to minimize the damage we take from it. But here we find Lantern, we find Shredder, so we now have the lock. And we do actually misplay here. We should have tapped the Caves to cast one of these, so we take an extra damage. As you'll see, it gets pretty close, so could have come back to hurt us. We're kind of fortunate that it didn't. Yeah, obviously, yeah, we just clicked the wrong land as we were tapping. And so they draw Boros Charm, which puts us at 7. Skewer puts us to 4, and they have 1 card in hand here. And at this point, I think it's very likely that they have a bolt of some variety. So we're going to play an Ensnaring Bridge, and we are not going to suspend this Profane Tutor because our only black mana makes us take damage. So I think like they play a land, or they play the guide, which they drew, and they didn't play a land. So they have to be holding, like, either it's an answer to Bridge, and in which case then we die anyway, or it's a bolt. So it's likely a bolt. We're not gonna suspend the tutor here. We could if we had forgotten, like if we had tapped properly, but even then I think we still try to play around Boros Charm. Now we do know now that it's not the charm, as they would have played it. And here, if we got to mill the Duress so that we don't get attacked by this Goblin Guide. And we draw Saga, which will allow us to find Cookbook in a couple turns, and then start discarding Profane Tutor. They are going to have a slew of fetch lands here, which we're going to let them have. And it is Bolt that they have in hand, so very, very important that we didn't tap that Caves to suspend the tutor. And we're going to let them draw the Horizon land here. I think they have a lot of hits, so giving them instant speed draw is not good by any means, but it's not the worst thing that we can give them. and they do pop the canyon here into another canyon. So they can only play one of those a turn, and we're gonna mill the Swift Spear, mill ourselves, and again here we are going to just tick up. We're gonna play the Spire. It will give us blue in the future after we get Cookbook, but them drawing one Swift Spear here, we can make a token to block it with Saga. And so they draw Swift Spear and see another one on top, which means when they pop the canyon here, we do have to mill them. So we mill the Swift Spear, Skullcrack on top. Again, we can't let them have any burn here. Kind of have to hit a land or a Goblin Guide, or our kind of only options. Swift Spear here again kills us, as we're only able to make one blocker. It is nice that we have Lantern on top, because we are able to crack Lantern, and they don't kill us here. They elect not to attack. Obviously they have not found a bolt, which is very good for us. We'll draw the Lantern, grab Underworld Cookbook. Importantly here, yeah, we just didn't make a construct, not needed. We'll gain 3, and with Lightning Helix on top, we let them draw it just because we don't want them drawing into like a Boros Charm or anything. And if they had a bolt, like if their draw that was blind was relevant, they would have played it already and killed us. So we are not concerned with that here. We will mill Skullcrack, as we don't want them holding that to negate our life gain. And again, we are gonna mill them for bolts, as we're still close to dead here. So we're gonna try to mill as many bolts as possible, and then just keep gaining life with Cookbook. Again, I'll pass through here. It's definitely close. Like, I think at this point we are in a winning position, as we can let them draw all their creatures, and then just every turn we'll discard. So very close game here. Definitely drew well, apart from our mulligans. Everything after the mulligans was well drawn. We do elect not to crack the food here, just to have it in response. We have enough lands that we can crack 2 foods in one turn. It doesn't matter here, because we know what they have in hand, or we know that it isn't relevant. But often when you're playing, having 2 foods up at the same time can be relevant if they have cards in hand. Like, maybe you're able to, the first turn you fetch Cookbook, sometimes you'll maybe make a food but use your mana to play bridge, so you won't be able to crack the food. And then just having 2 up is useful, using one in response to a burn spell or something to keep you alive, or if they have double burn, it's just nice to hold up. And they play it out for a bit here, but eventually just realize that they're dead, and we'll just keep gaining our life. And yeah, there's basically nothing here that's relevant. We have 3 Codex Shredders and Cookbook. They are totally locked. Wear Tear, Smash to Smithereens, we're just never going to let them draw, so they won't be able to attack ever. And they concede here. So we did it on a mull to 4. Was not feeling good about our chances after mulliganing, but sometimes it works out. So glad that could get there in the end, and we're now 2-0 heading into round 3. So hopefully that one goes well too.